My name is Daniel, and I'm 34 years old. For 6 years, I was a devoted husband. I believed in my marriage. I believed in my wife. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am. Emma and I met in our 20s. She was everything I had ever wanted. Kind, funny, and full of life. We fell in love fast, the kind of love that made you believe in forever. After 3 years of dating, we got married. It was the happiest day of my life. Marriage was good. At least that's what I thought. We had our challenges, but who didn't? We made time for each other, supported each other. She was my best friend, my partner in everything. I trusted her completely. But looking back, I realized I was blind. The signs were there. The distance, the little changes, the moments where I should have asked more questions. I ignored them because I didn't want to believe that the woman I loved was slipping away from me. I was living in a marriage I thought was unbreakable. But love, no matter how strong, isn't always enough. And one day, I found out the truth that shattered everything. At first, it was subtle. Small things that didn't seem important at the time. Emma started coming home later than usual. She'd say work was keeping her busy, and I believed her. I had no reason not to. She was always on her phone, smiling at messages she never shared. I'd ask, "Who's that?" And she'd laugh it off. "Just a friend," she'd say. Our conversations became shorter, distant. She wasn't as present as she used to be. Even when we sat in the same room, it felt like she was somewhere else. I told myself it was just stress. Work had been overwhelming for her, and I didn't want to add to it by questioning her every move. But then, the excuses started piling up. She cancelled date nights more often. She stopped texting me during the day like she used to. When I reached for her at night, she'd pull away, saying she was tired. I tried to ignore the feeling creeping into my chest, the feeling that something was wrong, because admitting it would mean admitting that the woman I loved was slipping away from me. And I wasn't ready for that. The little things that once felt normal started feeling off. Emma had a new perfume, one I never bought her. It was subtle, but different. I noticed it when she came home late one night. The scent lingered in the air as she walked past me. "You smell nice," I said, trying to keep my voice light. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just something I picked up. I let it go. I wanted to trust her. Then there were the outfits. She started dressing up more when she went out, even on nights when she said she was just meeting co-workers for dinner. She used to ask me how she looked, spinning around playfully in front of the mirror. But now, she barely acknowledged me as she rushed out the door. I told myself I was overthinking, that I was being insecure, until I saw the restaurant charge on our bank statement. It was a place I had never been to with her, a fancy one. Too nice for a casual dinner with friends. I asked her about it. "Did you go out to eat the other night?" She hesitated for just a second before answering. "Yeah, with some friends from work." Her voice was steady, but something felt off. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So I pushed the doubts aside. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The doubts I tried so hard to ignore wouldn't go away. They sat in the back of my mind whispering to me at night, making me question every word Emma said. Then the truth came, but not from her. One evening, my phone rang. It was Mike, a close friend of mine. I could tell from his voice that something was wrong. "Dan, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I saw Emma today." My stomach tightened. "Okay?" She wasn't alone. I sat up straight, my grip tightening on the phone. "What do you mean?" Mike hesitated, like he was trying to find the right words. She was at a cafe with some guy. It didn't look like a work meeting. The room around me felt like it was spinning. Are you sure? I know what I saw, man. I wanted to believe it was just a misunderstanding, that Mike was wrong, that there was some logical explanation. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I ended the call and sat there, staring at nothing. My heart pounded, my mind racing through every moment that had led to this. The late nights, the new perfume, the distant looks. I had been in denial, but the evidence was right in front of me. Emma was seeing someone else. I needed to hear it from her. I needed the truth from her lips. So that night, when she came home, I was waiting. She barely looked at me as she walked in, setting her bag down like it was just another normal evening. But nothing about this was normal anymore. "Where were you?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She paused, glancing at me. "I told you. I had dinner with some friends." I nodded slowly. "Who is he, Emma?" The color drained from her face. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. That silence told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't going to deny it. She couldn't. Tears welled in her eyes, and in the quietest voice she whispered, "I'm sorry." And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my marriage shattered. Silence filled the room, a heavy, suffocating silence. Emma stood there, eyes glassy with unshed tears, her lips slightly parted like she wanted to say something. But what was left to say? "I'm sorry," I repeated, my voice hollow. "That's all you have to say?" She lowered her gaze, wringing her hands together. "I didn't mean for it to happen." I let out a bitter laugh. "You didn't mean to lie to me? Sneak around behind my back? Disrespect everything we built?" She winced, but didn't deny it. I felt my chest tighten, anger and heartbreak crashing into me all at once. "How long?" My voice was quieter now, but the weight of the question hung between us. She hesitated before whispering, "A few months. A few months." All those nights she came home late, the unexplained charges, the distance between us. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. "Why, Emma? Why did you do this?" Her breath hitched, and she finally looked up at me. "I don't know," she admitted. "I was lonely. I felt unseen." I stared at her, my mind trying to process her words. "Unseen?" I echoed. "You think I didn't love you? That I didn't try?" She wiped a tear from her cheek. "I know you did, Dan. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being us. And I was afraid to say it out loud." I exhaled sharply, running a hand down my face. "So instead of talking to me, you turned to someone else?" She nodded, guilt etched into her face. "I wasn't looking for it, but it happened." I scoffed. "That's not an excuse, Emma." She nodded again, more tears falling. "I know." We stood there, two people who once swore forever to each other, now drowning in the ruins of our marriage. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers that would make this pain make sense. But deep down, I knew nothing could. Some betrayals couldn't be undone, and I wasn't sure if this was one we could come back from. The weight of her betrayal settled over me like a crushing force. For years, I had built my life around this marriage, around Emma, and now it all felt like an illusion. She stood there, wiping at her tears, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. That wasn't my job anymore. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. I let out a slow, shaky breath. "But you did." Silence stretched between us. For a brief moment, I thought about all the memories we shared. The laughter, the late-night talks, the dreams we once had. I thought about the man I used to be before all of this. before her betrayal. I wasn't that man anymore. I can't do this, Emma. My voice was steady, but inside I was breaking. Her face crumpled, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Please, Dan, can we fix this? I searched her eyes for something. Remorse, regret, love. Maybe all of it was there, but it wasn't enough. Some things can't be fixed. I shook my head. No, Emma, we can't. A sob escaped her lips, but I didn't stay to watch her fall apart. I turned away, my heart aching with every step I took. As I walked out the door, I knew I was leaving more than just our home. I was leaving behind the life I thought I had, the future I once dreamed of. I didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing for sure. This was the end of us.